King of horror, the master of the supernatural, one of the most influential authors of today. I couldn't help being curious. I needed to find out myself if all those statements are true. This is definitely the spookiest night of the year. From an ancient tradition to the so scary holiday we all know, Halloween is celebrated throughout the world. For this special occasion, I decided to go the extra mile and overcome my fears. So, this week's book is If It Bleeds by Stephen King. Well, during an interview with Conan O'Brien, Stephen King said that he loathes Halloween, but I guess we'll still reviewing his book. If It Bleeds was published in 2020 and it is a collection of 4 unpublished novellas. I don't know if it's just the fact that I have read great novellas lately, but I have begun to grow very fond of that genre. So, let's start with Mr. Harrigan's Phone. Mr. Harrigan is a very wealthy old man, and everyone is wondering why such a wealthy man who retired moved to such a small town. So Craig, our 25-year-old narrator, recalls his relationship with Mr. Harrigan. Craig was working for Mr. Harrigan from such a young age, and a special bond was created between the two men. When winning some money, Craig decided to give Mr. Harrigan his first iPhone. At first, he didn't really like his gift, but later on he truly loved it. When Mr. Harrigan died, Craig decided to place Mr. Harrigan's iPhone in his pocket so that he will be buried with it. This way, he takes their sweet relationship to the other side. I personally loved the story. It's a very solid one concerning death and grief. It also portrays King's skepticism on technology. It certainly has the supernatural element. It's not extremely frightful if this is what you're looking for, but it does give you a chill or two. The second novella is The Life of Chuck. It's the strangest novella in the book, as it's more of a mix of genres. It is very beautiful in a very odd way. What's really special about this story is that it's told backwards, which is something I didn't get from the start, to be honest. This story is told in 3 parts, and each part describes a portion of Chuck's life. I found the first part to be the closest to horror. The supernatural element is here, once again, but also very humane situations are. It's a very unique piece, very interesting premise. The third novella is If It Bleeds, which is the title of the collection. If It Bleeds is a sequel to The Outsider. It contains lots of spoilers, so perhaps it would be best if you read The Outsider first. Basically, the title is connected to a rather outdated but still accurate phrase. If it bleeds, it leads. That means that if a story contains death, brutality, disaster, it gets higher rankings. So, Holly Gibson, a detective, is watching on TV a dreadful event, a bomb dropped off at a middle school, when she notices something strange about the reporter who was first on the scene. For me, it was my least favorite novella. But if you have already read The Outsider and the Bill Hodges trilogy, you will be more than excited to read this one. Also, the mystery component here is pretty nice. Last but not least, the final novella is The Rat. Let me tell you, this one has its creepy moments. An aspiring, unsuccessful writer, Drew Larson, has published several short stories, but has been unable to complete a novel. In order to complete it, he sets out to an isolated family cabin and begins to write. Misery vibes, anyone? We can see that Stephen King returns to familiar ground here. A struggling writer cut off from the world, the difficulty in the writing process, or perhaps the struggle of being creative in general. I don't know, I can definitely relate to this. A storm breaks out and Drew is at the grip of a fever. That's the point when he meets a rat that talks to him and he strikes a bargain with that rat. It's a freaky fairy story. As for my opinion concerning my first Stephen King book, I was shocked. First of all, I realized that Stephen King displays a remarkable range. I can relate so much to a lot of emotions and thoughts presented. I was actually discussing this with one of my dearest friends, and she said something that had me thinking. Yes, Stephen King is the king of horror, the master of the supernatural, and so on and so on. But most of all, he is the master of human psychology. He knows people. He is aware of what's going on in our minds. That made so much sense. That is why his books are bound to give you the chills while being so relatable at the same time. So remember that the supernatural is there, but the real enemy is the human mind. Please leave me a comment with book suggestions, and also, if you have already read this book, leave me a comment letting me know what you think. Hit the subscribe button so that you will be informed about our new videos.